going on, everybody? Oh man, I lost my hat. Oh, sorry. Hold on. I wasn't ready. All right. Sorry. Had a rough start today. Sorry about that, guys. Every day's a rough start. I feel like every day's like that. I don't feel like doing music today. I feel like I've done a couple streams like that, and I'm just like, yeah, I just sort of kind of want to chill and play some Magic and listen to some politics stuff, and I didn't really want to skip the stream. So today's gonna just be a chill day. We're just gonna hang out. We're gonna listen to some stuff, and I don't know. We'll see how it goes. We'll see. You know what I'm saying? Who knows how this is gonna go? To be honest with you, I have not watched this, so I who knows? All right, I'm just gonna put it out there. Who fucking knows how this is gonna go? We're just take it as is. I'm sure we won't get through all of it, but well, fuck it. Who cares? Anyway, all right. Well, let's see here. Let me switch this one and this one. Sorry, guys. There we go. All right.
So how's your Iran war been so far? You enjoying the Iran war?
That's a fucking hell of a way to start.
Well, that really depends.
I wasn't expecting that to be the first words. Fair enough. All right. Well, started off hot, I guess. By the way, I don't love or hate this guy. He has a lot of opinions I don't like, but right now he's on fire. But
it's on who you are. We like to think, as Americans, that we're all in this together, and big events like wars or economic booms or crises or natural disasters affect all of us equally, but that's not true, and it never has been true. How you experience something big really depends on where you sit. And again, that's been true since the beginning of time. When Rome fell in 476, September 476, it, of course, was a history-changing disaster that we're still talking about. Books have been written about it ever since, more than 1,500 years. And for most people, it was really the end. It was the end of a civilization, the world's largest empire. But there were some people, you can imagine, on New Year's Eve 476, sitting around the table with their families, assessing the year that just went by. And they looked around the table and said, you know, that was the best year we ever had. Of course, Germanic hordes are plundering the city of Rome, but for us, honestly, it was pretty great. And that's just the nature of it. Not anything inherently wrong with that. It's just a fact. You saw it during COVID. COVID was a massive disaster for most Americans, for most people in the West. Addiction rates went up, suicide rates, divorce. Kids didn't get educated for over a year. It destroyed a whole generation of young people, affected them badly anyway. On the other hand, if you were fortunate enough to have a second home, like a weekend house in a rural area that didn't have COVID restrictions or enforcement officers capable of enforcing them.
Tired of sifting through jobs?
Oh,
Don't
man.
feel like the right fit?
already.
Introducing Indeed Career Scout. Find the
I swear I hate ads. I need to pay for something, but I'm just lazy and a little bit broke. Yeah. Let's see. There we go.
Great. If you lived in a traditional world, like say where your wife didn't work because she didn't have to because you made enough money, you could live a kind of 1950s family existence, and you had a coherent family and children who still liked you, sort of, and they were all home for months. It was like the best time you had in the last 20 years. People don't like to say that out loud, but that's real. And the Iran war is a little bit like that. It's an event that is affecting our lives right now, or certain to define our lives in important ways going forward, an event that's changing the world for all time, an event that people will write books about. And for most, it is a disaster, a true disaster, not just for the thousands who've already been killed, or the dozen countries that have been bombed, or for the hundreds of thousands of Britons in the UK who've dropped below the poverty line already, 2 months in, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It's a disaster. But for some small, select group of people, it's been awesome. Let's check in with our old friend, hedge fund manager Bill Ackman. This was him 2 days ago on CNBC. Here's how his war is going.
Iran has been, I think, a major funder of sort of anti-American protests and kind of otherwise. I think, that war is a very good one. And
the war is a very good one.
yeah, I think we've
very unpopular, though.
I don't know. I don't know whose surveys to trust. Look, I think most Republicans, many
Republicans,
support the president, and it shouldn't be a bipartisan issue.
The Iran war is a very good one. Really? Says the interviewer on CNBC. No, really, yeah, it's a very good one. Is it unpopular? I don't know about that. And the truth is, Bill Ackman probably doesn't know. He may not know anyone personally who thinks this is a disaster because for Bill Ackman and his friends, the Epstein class, it's been a massive win. And that's been pretty obvious increasingly if you're following markets. So there's this phenomenon that people are starting to catch on to where a certain news organization predicts serially, many times in a row over the past 20 or so days, an imminent peace agreement between Iran and the United States. Now, that agreement has not materialized. Apparently, we're not actually close to getting one. But at the moment when that's announced, every single time you've seen a massive move in global energy markets and in equity markets, stock market, because people are betting that that will have direct effects on the value of stocks and or oil or other commodities. And a little bit before that announcement, every single time you have seen massive bets made on oil futures. You've seen billions of dollars change hands, and you can surmise that somebody is getting rich doing this. In fact, you can be absolutely certain. Now, you don't know who. Really, the only thing you know is A, it's happening, and B, no one will ever be held to account for it. Now, how do you know that? Because we've seen this a lot. In fact, we saw it, and no one ever wants to remember this, on 9/11. Shortly before 9/11, somebody put big bets in shorts against airline and bank stocks. Those are two businesses that were directly affected by the events of 9/11. Now, we know this happened because these are public markets, so there's a record of it, but we also know, because they admitted it, the FBI figured out who did it. But the FBI never got around to telling us their identity. So the largest federal law enforcement agency has known for 25 years who had foreknowledge of 9/11, and that's demonstrable because they bet against the events of that day before the rest of us experienced them, and has never divulged their identities. Now, we can guess as to why that is. Why would the FBI be protecting people with foreknowledge of 9/11? We don't know for certain what the answer is, but we do know that they are doing it. They did it, and they're still doing it. So if the identities of people who bet against 9/11, who shorted airline stocks before 9/11, are somehow classified on national security grounds and you're not allowed to know them, then we can bet safely that whoever is profiting from the Iran war in public markets probably isn't going to get any kind of insider trading violation. Probably not. But one thing we also have learned, much more vulnerable, susceptible, maybe based on manipulation than we ever thought. And if you think about it, that's kind of a surprise. Even people who complained about how central the stock market is to the American economy, and you can argue whether we have a real economy, if it's based on anything, that's an academic argument. But even people who thought, wow, we seem a little bit over-invested in public equities markets, kind of assumed they were real. I mean, market's a pretty straightforward proposition. I've got something to sell. You want to buy it. I'll sell it for what you'll buy it for, and vice versa. It's transparent by its nature. It's self-correcting. That's the basis of our economic system, capitalism, free market capitalism. It always finds the right level, the rational level, because it's based on the free exchange of money for assets.
We have got to the point where literally anybody can build a fully working app without knowing how to code. This is Base 44. This is a first look at the current industry-leading AI app builder, and you wouldn't believe the kind of apps that people are creating. Smart nutrition apps.
But that's not what we're seeing now. Not at all. Markets are doing things you would not expect markets to do if they were behaving rationally in a free way, if they weren't rigged. You would see, well, certain commodities prices, including oil, go up a lot more than they have. Gold go up a lot more than it has. And yet gold and oil and other commodities have stayed far lower than you would rationally expect them to stay after 60 days of terrible news out of the world's center of global energy production. So the Strait of Hormuz has been closed for months now, in effect. And yet oil, as of airtime tonight, was under $100 a barrel. Much lower than it was in, say, 2008. That is bizarre. But it's more than bizarre. It's fake. It is obvious, it's become too obvious to deny over the past couple of months that public markets are not what they told us they were, which is to say open and free and equal for everyone to participate in. It's going to take a long time for that understanding to percolate down to the level of retail investors. But the knowledge is there, and you can't kind of deny it, that some people are getting rich from this and most people aren't. And it's not exactly clear the mechanisms by which they are, but it's very obvious that it's happening. We're not accusing Bill Ackman of participating in this. It's not like Bill Ackman would talk down share prices in publicly traded companies to make money. Oh, wait, he's done that his whole life. But in this specific case, we have no evidence of a crime, assuming it still is a crime. But we can say with great confidence that in this, as in every other war, some people will do just fine. In fact, they will greatly benefit from it, which is one of the reasons we keep having wars, because they are enormously profitable. It's hard for normal people to appreciate that that could possibly be true. People die, innocents die in foreign countries, your own country becomes poor, your own service members die, so you can get rich. Could anyone be that dark? Yeah, and we're watching it now. So there is a part of the population that thinks this has been a very good war and isn't even aware that it might be unpopular with anybody else, because I haven't met anyone, in the famous words of Pauline Kael, who didn't vote for George McGovern, who lost very badly in 1972. We all live in our own worlds. So Bill Ackman doesn't know anyone who doesn't think this is a great thing. It's a great war. So how's the rest of the country doing? Well, the chairman of the White House Council on Economic Advisors, Kevin Hassett, was called to the lawn today to give an account of the American economy. And that's a tough thing to do, and we say this with great sympathy and no personal animus toward Mr. Hassett at all. But here's the tape. Here's what he said.
So the consumer is really, really firing on all cylinders, just like the corporate sector you're seeing in the earnings reports. And they're doing that because they have so much more money in their pockets. In fact, I had the head of one of the big 5 banks in my office yesterday going through the credit card data. And just as Secretary Bessent said, credit card spending is through the roof. They're spending more on gasoline, but they're spending more on everything else, too.
Credit card spending is through the roof. Now, again, you feel bad for the man who has to present those data to the public as if they're a win. But think about this for a second. The average interest rate on a credit card, not even a new credit card, but an existing credit card, which is to say a credit card held by someone with a track record of paying money every month to credit card companies. These are not high-risk credit cards. These are normal credit cards. The average interest rate in the United States right now is 23%. 23%. And by the way, that goes up to 36%, probably higher. Probably higher than 36%, but officially 36% is the highest rate any mainstream credit card will charge you. You could go get a personal bank loan for 11%. So you could borrow money at less than half the rate than you're getting from your credit card company. So why would anybody use a credit card and roll over the interest? 40% of American adults cannot repay their credit card balance. That's 111 million people. And they are paying, on average, 23% interest. So that's not a win. That's a sign of desperation and impending poverty. And keep in mind, we are living right now in the final moments before whatever AI is going to bring us. Those data centers being erected in your town, the ones that you are paying for.
Oh, you know what? That is a thing
higher
we should
energy
probably
costs
talk about here in a little
through
bit.
the legacy environmental cleanup you're definitely on the hook for. Those data centers are being constructed in order to eliminate half of all American white-collar jobs. So you hate to use the hackneyed cliche, digging your own grave, but it's not entirely an overstatement at this point. Those data centers going in destroying the landscape in your town, eating up fertile farmland in some cases, certainly making everything uglier and providing almost no jobs. Those are going up in order to facilitate AI. And the one thing, really the only thing we know about AI is that it's going to eliminate half of all productive work in the United States. That hasn't happened yet. It's beginning to happen. But all forecasts from the people who are developing it, who have every incentive to downplay the negative effects of the technology they're creating, all the forecasts suggest in the next 2 or 3 years, we're going to see economic disruption on a scale we've never even conceived of. Keep in mind that economic change always precipitates, always causes, forces political change. And if the economic change is profound and abrupt enough, it causes revolution. The First and Second World Wars were a reaction to the Industrial Revolution. Of course, Marxism was a reaction to the Industrial Revolution. But no technological change in all of history matches the abrupt and radical change now being promised by the developers of AI. So all of this, the conversation we're having about the American economy and how much money people have and how much they owe, all of that is taking place in the final moments before the economic cataclysm we've been promised by artificial intelligence.
So you want to start a business. You might think you need a team of people with fancy tech skills, but you don't. You just need GoDaddy Arrow.
So it's not like we can wait 10 years for this whole thing to self-correct, for markets to become honest again, and for people to make a wage sufficient to buy a home and raise children. This is all happening, which is to say people are getting poorer and far more indebted on the eve of what we should all be staying up late worrying about and trying to fix. But instead, no one is worried about it in any position of authority. People seem to be wholly focused on cashing in on it. Build the 40,000-acre data center as soon as you possibly can. Get taxpayers to pay for it, in effect, by shouldering the costs of running it through higher utilities, and take as much money off the table as you can while you can. That's what it looks like. Now, maybe that's an ungenerous interpretation. Maybe there are a lot of people who are really trying to build a better tomorrow through AI, and doubtless there are some of those. But big picture, that does seem to be what's going on. And you know that because no one has explained to you how this is going to be good for you. Instead, they're telling you that borrowing money on your credit card is a sign of economic health. It's a sign that we're on the right track. We have more money to spend. That's why we're buying more on our credit cards. No. People who have more money to spend buy things. People who have no money to spend buy essentials on credit. And that's exactly what is happening. Now, some of that is a reaction to the economic changes already wrought 2 months in by the war with Iran. Some of it is the downstream effect of years of bad economic planning, years of living in an economy where Bill Ackman makes $8 billion or something with an IQ of 105 with no track record of improving the country or creating anything, basically just leeching off the existing system, plundering it effectively. He hates it when you say that, but he's never explained how what he does for a living is good for the United States or productive in any sense. It's merely extractive, probably worse than lead mining. But all the gains, the substantial gains over the last 20 years have not been broadly shared by Americans. They've gone upward. Now, that's a moral problem, maybe, probably. But it's certainly a management problem. It is a problem of governance at a certain point because it means a huge number of Americans, let's go with the 111 million, the number that can't repay their credit card debt, who have no vested interest in the system. They have a negative net worth. They don't own anything. They are living here, but they don't see a future for themselves or their families, or they may not have families, and they certainly don't own anything worth protecting. And so what does that add up to? Social and political volatility. So you would think the people in charge of the country who are benefiting the most, the people like Bill Ackman who think it's been a really good war, would be very concerned about this. And they would not want to put any more economic pressure on this beleaguered population, and particularly on young people who seem to bear the brunt of it. probably because they have the least political power, so nobody cares what they think. Healthy society would be totally focused on what young people think because they are building the society that will outlive the current leadership of that society, but they're ignored. So if you were thinking longitudinally, if you were thinking about what's best over time for your country, your civilization, you'd be focused on them and you would not casually add to their burden. But what we're watching is a kind of frenzy of carelessness, of thoughtlessness, of callousness toward people whose lives have not gotten better over the past 30 years, but gotten measurably worse in every category of measurement. And you hate to pile on, and you hate to take the president literally, because I've said many times, Trump is not meant to be taken literally, sort of like reading poetry. The theme is what matters. The feeling it evokes is what matters. I've made that argument. And it's often true. But at some point, particularly when you're talking about hard numbers, the prices of commodities, for example, in the middle of a war that is affecting those prices, it is worth paying attention to the president's own estimates of the costs of this voluntary war that he started at the demand of Israel. So here is the president, I think yesterday, explaining his view on oil prices.
I also thought oil would go up to 200, 250, maybe 300. And I knew it would be short term, but I thought it would go, I looked today, it's like at 102. And that's a very small price to pay for getting rid of a nuclear weapon from people that are really mentally deranged.
It's 100. I thought it was going to go to 200 or 300. Really? What would $200 a barrel oil mean? Well, we've never had it. We've never had and these are adjusted numbers. We've never had $200 a barrel Brent crude, period, in world history. But what would happen if we did? Well, I don't know, $10 a gallon for unleaded at the pump? More for diesel? Much more for jet fuel? What would that mean? Well, it would mean inflation, possibly hyperinflation. What would $300 a barrel oil, which the president said he imagined we could have?
What if you could make a song using only your voice? Let's start with the drums. I'm gonna hit drums and click cover.
What would that mean? Well, it's not even worth guessing because no one's even modeled it out. No one's even taken the time to write out the formula or guess as to what effect $300 a barrel oil would have on human civilization. But you can be absolutely certain it would be the end of a lot of things that we take for granted. Certainly air travel, jobs. It would be a true disaster on the level of, I don't know, a national tsunami or hurricane. It would affect every person in the United States making less than $1 million a year. It would crush people. Already at $100 in the US, $100 oil, you just heard the president say it's 97, something like that. People around the world are worrying about famine because, of course, oil is not just used to produce gasoline and jet fuel and asphalt and kerosene and all the familiar products. It's also used to produce fertilizer. All kinds of petrochemicals used in manufacturing, but fertilizer. And without it, crop yields go down and people starve in the most populated continent in the world, which would be sub-Saharan Africa. So already you are seeing a massive human cost, not well reported in American media, to a relatively small spike in global oil prices. And here you have the president saying, I thought it could be $300. That's like saying, well, I thought they might drop a neutron bomb on Chicago, but, I was willing to risk it. No president should ever be willing to talk that casually about the economic destruction of his nation. The justification for it. It's worth it, said the president, because Iran had nuclear weapons, and you can't let crazy people have nuclear weapons. So it's almost not worth rebutting that with the facts, which are as follows. Iran did not have a nuclear weapon. It did not have ICBMs to deliver that weapon here or anywhere near here. It did not have an active nuclear weapons program, and the American intelligence community, all 18 separate agencies, determined that conclusively after studying it for years, and with the motivation to find said nuclear program, they couldn't. So no, Iran did not have a nuclear weapon. It was nowhere near getting a nuclear weapon, despite the lying you have often heard. That was not even an imminent threat. It was not close to an imminent threat, despite the fact the Israelis had told us and the U.S. Congress for over 20 years that it was an imminent threat. That was a lie. But you have to ask yourself, even if it was true, would that justify destroying the American economy? Would it justify, I don't know, driving 200,000 Britons into poverty in 2 months? And that's just the opening salvo. Would it justify a famine in Africa? No one wants to say it. There are a lot of countries with nuclear weapons. You don't want any of them to have nuclear weapons because any normal person thinks nuclear weapons are bad because they are, by definition, weapons of mass destruction that kill innocents. So they are bad as a category. But there are a lot of countries that have them, including countries with, well, leaderships that are filled with religious extremists like Israel and Pakistan, and in a way, North Korea. And the world has been able to continue for now almost 30 years with a nuclear on Pakistan. It's not ideal. Maybe we should have done something during the Clinton administration to stop it. But we haven't had to destroy the American economy in order to do something about it since then. Of course not. And in fact, the deeper truth is that there is a kind of stability, as bad as nuclear weapons are, when rival nations possess them. India and Pakistan, which are countries with a long, almost 80-year history of hating each other and many wars in the interim, have managed to fight fairly bitter conflicts.
I think I'm going to have to cut the stream short tonight, guys. Yeah, I think I'm going to need to cut it short. I apologize, guys. My son is, being my son. Sorry. Hold on. Oh my gosh. What am I doing? Yeah, here we go. I apologize. We're probably going to have to just cut this short because I got to go take care of my son. I wasn't planning on staying on here super long today anyway, but I don't know. This intro is really long, and honestly, there's nothing really to say about any of it. I mean, he's just being him. You know what I mean? Tucker's being Tucker. I don't know. There's nothing really, honestly, cool in there, anything really even worth talking about. Like, I don't know. Sort of kind of just, yeah. I don't know. I thought there'd be more in this, but maybe just, how long is... Oh, it's another 15 minutes till we even get to Thomas Massie? Holy shit. Yeah, I should have looked at this before I apologize about that. That's a long fucking time. Yeah, no. We're not going to do all that. Well, all right. Well, what we'll do is we'll go ahead and we'll end the stream early tonight, and then maybe we'll hop back on here Friday, but definitely expect from me on Sunday. I have a couple remixes that I wanted to hop in and get some stuff figured out on. But yeah. Anyway, all right. Well, I love you guys. I will talk to you either Friday or Sunday. So have a good rest of your day.